Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. It's quite a big shop. We got a Cadillac here today and a Mercedes. We're doing the battle of the luxury cars. This is a $43,000 car and a $73,000 car when they were new. We're going to take these cars into the shop and put them in the lift, and we're going to find out, what are you paying for? Why is the difference so great between these two cars? So let's get them inside and let's go take a look and see what the differences are between these cars. Here we have this 2002 Cadillac Deville. You've seen it in a previous video. This is actually my daughter's Cadillac. We're actually on the brink of getting rid of this thing. She's going to start college here pretty soon, start school, and we've got our more fuel efficient vehicle. She's going to be traveling quite a bit. So this thing's going away, and before it does, I thought we would do a comparison and see what's the differences. So let's start in the back underneath and work our way forward, and then we'll lower it and go from there. Here we are at the rear suspension, and as you can see, it's not very complicated. Just a trailing arm. Here's a track bar, and there's the air suspension in the back, and it's what's common on these. It's rusting, and it won't be long before they blow out. Buick LeSabres, Cadillacs, Park Avenues, same system here. Pretty chintzy, but it works, I guess. There's nothing fancy about the suspension. As you can see, the brakes, they're very small. They work, they get the job done. There wasn't a lot of engineering or cost that went into that. They just kind of said these brakes work and we'll put them on. As you look at the exhaust, it's just a single simple tube. And as we get over to the Mercedes, you'll see some differences. There's no cladding for aerodynamics or anything. Everything's exposed. All your lines are exposed. There's your floorboards right there, right out in the open. Here's the charcoal canister right out in the open. Everything's out in the open. There's no cladding under here. Another area that engineering or expense wasn't put into this car. Made it cheaper. But as you can see, a lot less, I guess you could say less quality. This is an American luxury car. This is a Cadillac. This is supposed to be the creme de la creme. And for $43,000 back then, this is what you got. If you really look closely, it's not much. We'll move forward. It does have some heat shielding here for the exhaust, but it ends right here. Here the heat goes right into the floorboards, and there's no more heat shielding until you get back there. And here's the fuel tank exposed. There's no heat shields up here, just exposed. So it's kind of cost saving. That's what I'm looking for, cost saving. Let's look at the front suspension. Simple control arm, a strut, sway bar, and tie rod. There's really nothing fancy about it. It works, it does the job, it rides good. Not so good for handling, not so good for sophistication, just a basic. Really, this cradle, this entire engine cradle, you'll find it on a Buick LeSabre, a Park Avenue. It's identical, it's the same one. That's why you can get the North Star and some of the Oldsmobiles and things. It's the same cradle. As we can see, there's no plastic shield here. It's all out in the open. It looks like maybe there could have been there's not one. And I've worked on a lot of these. They don't have them. It's just open here. The belt's open. Everything's open. So that's the underneath. Let's go ahead and lower it and go over some of the features up top. This is the 4.6 liter V8 that the Cadillac comes with. It's 275 horsepower. And as a previous video that you've seen, I did head studs on this one, and it's been pretty reliable. But if anything else goes wrong with them, they're very difficult to work on. The water pump's difficult to work on. This also has the turbo hydromatic 4-speed automatic. It's a pretty simple standard transmission that they've used. It's transverse, it's a transaxle really, but it's still a 4-speed automatic that you find in any other GM product. There's really nothing under here that's exciting or anything. I mean, the North Star is a good engine. It's actually very good on horsepower for the size of the engine, but for $43,000, I don't know. Also in the engine bay, if you look, there's the big engine, there's all the stuff crammed around it, and then you have this little bulkhead here. The bulkhead's pretty cheap. There's nothing between the engine and the cabin really much other than just a small little bulkhead. We got this ugly cover. It's kind of chintzy and cheap under here for what you're paying for. It's really not that fancy under here. Let's take a look at some of the features in the interior. I'll go ahead and close the hood. Okay, so there's a feature that the Mercedes has that we'll show you when we get over there. Soft closed doors that, nope, I'll try it again. Nope. You know why? It wasn't even an option. I don't care how much money you have. The Cadillac is not going to have that. The epitome of American luxury. Not an option. I guess I'll have to slam the door and be like a plebeian. There we go. I'll open it up, and if you look inside, it's really not that fancy either. I mean, it's a car for an older generation. It's really set up that way, and they don't even make them anymore. As you can see in here, it's quite simple. There's some features. There is heated seats, power windows, and locks back here. That's about it. And it looks decent, but this is cheap. It's not real wood. And it's really, the layout is set up for an older generation of person, man or woman. It's got simple big buttons. Everything's laid out for ease of use, I guess you could say. It's decent, it's nice, but then again, it's not a Mercedes-Benz. It has dual zone climate control, it has OnStar, it has a radio, CD player, all those common things. It has front heated seats as well. So on this vehicle, there's the common issues. We'll go over the common issues of both vehicles. And on this particular vehicle, obviously the common issue that they have is head gaskets that blow, and it's extremely expensive to fix. They also have oil pan leaks. Around where the oil pan is, it leaks oil, and you have to almost drop the motor or get the exhaust pipe out of the way to fix it. They're also sensitive up front to the tires, the type of tires you use. I used to have an 05 Deville. I fought it and fought it and fought it and tried this tire and that tire and road force balance. And if you read online, it's a problem. It's a big problem with these, and I don't know why. It's just that they're sensitive to the front tires. You'll get the shaking in the steering wheel. There's a crossover pipe also that leaks coolant. That's it's on the engine by the transmission. It's kind of expensive to fix. And also, if your starter goes out on this, you have to take the plastic intake off it's under the intake. It's kind of a stupid design. It's not hard to do, but it's like, well, I have to take my intake off to put a starter on. It's kind of dumb. And as you saw when we had it up in the air, the rear shocks, any of the GM cars that have the rear air suspension, it rusts, it corrodes. Then the rust cuts the rubber and rots the rubber, and it blows out. It's just a common deal. So those are some of the common issues with this vehicle. It's a nice vehicle. It rides nice, but then again, like I said, it's not a Mercedes-Benz. Let's head over to the Mercedes and continue the comparison. So this is my 2004 Mercedes S430. You guys have seen this in the video as well, and it's been a real trooper. It's been doing great ever since we got the transmission mount replaced. Now keep in mind, there's only a couple years difference between the cars, so the price difference is going to be relatively comparative. Back in the time when these cars are new, you would ask, what am I getting for an additional $30,000 more dollars on top of a Cadillac? $73,000 is what this was when it was new. So let's take a look and see what's the difference. Here we have true dual exhaust for the most part. And look, heat shields. Even all the way back here, heat shields. There's a cover, a plastic cover over where the spare tire goes. There's plastic back here to cover up everything that's underneath of that. And here, as we move forward, we see independent rear suspension. And look, more heat shields. As we look at the suspension setup here, it's quite complicated compared to the Cadillac. There's 5 arms on here. lower arms, upper arms, sway bar. It's very sophisticated. The goal here is a good quality ride as well as good handling. You don't get good handling on the Cadillac. Also, look at the brakes. The back brakes on this car are as big as the front brakes on the Cadillac. They're probably 20 to 30% bigger. Better stopping power. Let's move forward a little bit. Like I said a minute ago, heat shields. Nice rubber mounted drive shaft. And here we start to see plastic. Your brake lines and fuel lines and things, for the most part, are covered up. Stuff's not out in the open and exposed like it was on the Cadillac. And as we move further forward, you can start to see that they really cover everything up nicely. More heat shields. And this entire cover on both sides covers all the lines, it covers all the wiring. Everything's covered up, protected, and it's more aerodynamic. This will also help for rust protection. A lot of slush and with salt and everything on the roads, it kind of just washes off. It doesn't get all over the metal. In some places it still will, but it does provide some protection. We'll move forward a little bit more. It does go into one pipe here, but for the most part it's dual exhaust. More heat shields, heat shields, heat shields all the way forward. Everything's nice and covered up here. Heat shields are really nice to isolate the cabin from heat. They keep, in the summer when it's really hot out, the last thing you need is your exhaust making your floorboards even warmer. They take extra steps to make sure that you're isolated from the heat by putting all this heat shielding. Now let's go to the front suspension. Again, this is quite a bit more complicated. It still has a control arm, kind of like the Cadillac, but you got multiple different things. The geometry is totally different. You don't just have a boring strut sitting here. You've got a control arm up top as well. And as you can see, the air suspension is protected by a boot. It's not out in the open where rust and water and sand, and it's pretty well protected. It's a better unit. And here the brakes are huge. They're pretty big. Good stopping power. And again, plastic cover. It keeps debris and sand and whatever out from the engine bay. As you can tell, it's a lot better built car. A lot better quality. Let's go ahead and lower this down and go over some of the other features up top. Another feature that this car has that's not even begins to be an option on a Cadillac Deville is all-wheel drive. It's 4MATIC. In harsh conditions, snow, ice, mud, this car is like an SUV. It's not as tall as an SUV, but you can, on the air suspension, you can lift it up. There's a button to press that gives you some ground clearance, and you've basically got a four-wheel drive. You're not going to find that in a Cadillac Deville. Like I said, this was $73,000 new. Quite a bit more money, but you also get quite a bit more. Better quality, better materials, better parts. This is a 4.3 liter V8. It's a little bit smaller, but yet it still has the same power, 275 horsepower. The fuel economy is probably not going to be as great. You'll lose a few more miles per gallon because this is geared towards a little bit towards performance. This doesn't have a 4-speed automatic. This has a 5-speed in the 4MATIC models. If you got just the rear-wheel drive, you got a 7-speed automatic in this year. But this one's a 4MATIC, so it has a 5-speed automatic, which is really the better unit. This engine sits lengthwise. It doesn't sit crossways. And it's a lot easier to work on. It's not a goofy front-wheel drive setup. It's set up like a standard rear-wheel drive V8, but it is four-wheel drive. And as you can see here in the bulkhead, there's a definite dividing between the cabin and the engine. Separate chambers. It's to isolate you from the sound of the engine and the noise and vibration of the engine. They really do a good job with that. One thing I noticed on the Mercedes, they really make it easier to work on. If you got analog brake problem, there it is, fix it. If you want to change your oil, there's your oil filter. There's your power steering pump. Everything's out in the open. There's your brakes. On the Cadillac, all this stuff is stuffed down in the bumper down there where you can get dirt and sand all over it, and not a very good design. Everything on here is designed to be worked on. It's easy to work on. I mean, you could take one look under the engine bay and know this is a better built car. They didn't spare no cost or just trying to get it out the door and sell it. They put a little time and effort into it. So what you see here is two different ideologies of luxury. What Americans think luxury is and what the Germans think luxury is. There's a lot more to luxury in a car than just cushy leather seats and a soft ride, and there's a whole lot of things that go into a Mercedes-Benz that are just totally ignored, not even thought about on a Cadillac Deville. It's not even on the drawing board on their design. So there's going to be a lot more expense involved in that, and that's why it's a more expensive car. As you can tell, the overall quality of the car is just so much better that it actually ages better. It's dirty in here. I live on a dirt road. This is my daily driver. This is not something that I come out with a cotton cloth and keep it spotless, and I don't do that. Not on this. This is my driver. So both cars have seen the same service. The Cadillac didn't hold up very well, and this one seems to be doing fine. So let's go to the back seat and to the interior and take a look at some of the things there and do some comparisons. I just locked my doors. Did you hear it? No, you didn't. On the Cadillac you would. It would have the old antiquated clunk, 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 which is simian quality. It's a simian type setup. On this car, a person pays this kind of money for this car. They don't want antiquated old technology on it. There I go, I just unlocked it. Nice and quiet. Let's open the door and try the soft close. Oh, it closed itself. You don't have to slam the door like a cave person. You just open the door, you lightly put it against the jamb and walk away. It takes care of the rest for you. There are a lot more features to this car. You paid a lot more for this car. You get a lot more. This is not even on the drawing board on a Cadillac. Let's take a look inside. This has 2 levels of heating in the heated seats in the back. There's really not a lot more buttons or anything, but look at the nice stitched leather. Different varying patterns of leather. Has a nice ashtray there with a PowerPoint, or yeah, that's a PowerPoint. Real wood. This isn't simulated wood, this is real wood. There's a vent here that can be open and closed and change the direction. Very nice quality leather. That's one thing you notice when you sit inside, the smell. It smells like an expensive handbag. Nice metal cladding for your door sills here. No plastic. These are nice cloth weather stripping. This isn't just some cheap rubber out of the parts bin. This is nice, soft. There's some vents for the rear passenger there as well, surrounded by real wood. It has headrests back here that if you put them up and they're in your way, there's a button up front that you can push and they drop back down. You won't find that on a Cadillac of that year. Here's also another feature that you won't find on the drawing board on a Cadillac. Rear sunshade. Has nice, I suppose they're LED or fluorescent lighting behind here. It's real nice and pleasing, easy to read. Has buttons, controls to operate the climate control and the volume and phone and all the features. Has memory positions for the different settings for the seats. Again, real wood all the way around. Leather everywhere. Leather and the armrest, steering wheel, everywhere, all over the place. This has navigation system, GPS. It has 6-disc changer, dual zone climate control. It also has cabin filtration button to filter the air that's coming in. So if you see this right here, this is something you won't find on the Cadillac. Side impact airbags. There's an airbag here, there's an airbag in the dash, there's some of the doors. Oh look, airbag, side impact airbags for the rear occupants. That's not on a Cadillac. So that's it for the interior on there. As you see, there's quite a few more options, and you can also see that there was a lot more that went into making this car. This car has 170,000 miles on it. It looks way better. It drives way better. The Cadillac only has 130. It didn't fare so well. As you see, there's a lot of engineering that went into this for safety. There's airbags. They didn't design this car to a price point. They designed it to a luxury point. They designed it to be a certain way, drive a certain way, have certain features. They didn't say, oh, let's stop here, the cost is getting too high. That's what they did on the Cadillac. They were like, we need to keep the cost down. They didn't do that here. The parts on these are more expensive, but as you saw, they are designed to be worked on. It seemed like they had the mechanic in mind when they made this. But there are some issues on these cars. Every make of car has common issues, and some of the issues that these have is valve cover gasket leaks. They have pneumatic leaks, and like the power door locks and the soft close doors can stop working on you because there's pneumatic or vacuum leaks there. Just like with any other Mercedes, it can have drive shaft vibrations. That's a common issue as they get age on them. As you're going down the road, it kind of vibrates. It can have also airmatic leaks, the airmatic suspension system. All the airbags that we saw underneath, they can have leaks at the valve block, the compressor, or the airbags themselves. And the lower front ball joints. Seems like I've put so many of these on the W210, 220 is ball joint. They just seem to fail pretty quickly. But pretty much, that's pretty much it on these. I mean, they're a good car. They're a good quality car. So that kind of sums it up as to pretend like you're back in 2003, 2004. You're looking at these two cars and you say, why do I want to spend $30,000 more on this car? And clearly there's a reason for that extra price. Really, it's worth it to me. It would be way worth it. If there's any tools or anything you've seen that I've used in previous videos and you want to know what kind of tools I use or where can you buy them, go to my Amazon affiliate page in the link below. Everything's listed there for you. You can purchase them on there. We also have decals and hoodies and coffee mugs and things for sale with Car Wizard on it. You can purchase those. And I look forward to more fun videos with you guys. And again, thanks for watching.